Welcome to the Authority File, the academic library podcast from Choice. Choice is a publishing division of the ACRL and the publisher of Choice Reviews and CC Advisor. This episode is brought to you by Annual Reviews. I'm Bill Mickey, the host of the podcast and the editorial director at Choice, and for this 4-episode series, I'm joined by Richard Gallagher, the president and editor-in-chief of Annual Reviews, a nonprofit science publisher with a unique content model that's about to get a whole lot more interesting. But before we introduce this 4th episode, I'd like to ask you, our listeners, for a little help. We've created a survey about our podcast, and I'd like to invite you to fill it out. Your answers will help us understand what you like about the Authority File, what you don't like about it, and what you think we can do to improve it. I'll bet it only takes you about 10 minutes to fill out, and if you want, you can enter to win a $25 Amazon gift card. You can access the survey at www.research.net/r/authorityfile. That's www.research.net/r/authorityfile. Okay, so on to episode 4. In its ongoing effort to move its journals to an open access publishing model, Annual Reviews has settled on a model it calls Subscribe to Open. Using this strategy, the nonprofit publisher hopes to make its OA ambitions sustainable long term. The model will need buy-in and participation from its existing subscriber base, however, and Annual Reviews President Richard Gallagher and I discussed the details of that and how he hopes it will play out, and the role that opening access to the Annual Review of Public Health on an experimental basis, with the support of a grant from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, played in the development of the pilot Subscribe to Open program. We'll also talk about Plan S and what other smaller publishers should know as they navigate the quickly changing field of open access. Why, and we talked about this a little bit before, but if you could just reiterate again, why is the move to open important to Annual Reviews, and how does it help further the organization's mission?
Well, our mission is to synthesize and integrate knowledge for the progress of science and the benefit of society. I think that the grant that we got illustrated how open access furthers both of these aims, progress of science and benefit of society. It increases usage by researchers. We saw the number of institutions that access the content increase from 2,000 to some 7,000. And it also makes valuable information available to the interested non-researcher. So we think that we definitely need to pursue open access. We're obliged, given the success of the experiment with the Annual Review of Public Health, to try and make this content available for the benefit of the authors who write this stuff, for the benefit of the editors who are putting in a lot of time and effort to selecting the best content. It certainly helps our organization as a whole, but most of all, it's a useful resource for readers, both in the academic setting and in the wider public.
Okay. So in sort of your transition to open access, you've come up with sort of what I feel like is a rather unique model, and that's what you're calling the Subscribe to Open model. Can you talk a little bit about how you envision that working?
So Subscribe to Open uses the existing library relationships and subscription purchases that we have to convert our gated access journals to open access. This increases the impact of the library spend by making the content available not just to the people in your university, but to everyone else in your town, everyone else in your state, everyone in the country, everyone in the world. The participation is in the economic self-interest of the subscribing organizations, because Subscribe to Open journals come with a 5% discount over the regular price as an incentive to participate. So the libraries leverage their budgets in a dramatic fashion, and they save money. We think that it's realistic and an immediate route to open access, and we're going to pilot the Subscribe to Open program with 5 journals in 2020. There's a lot more information available about Subscribe to Open on the Annual Reviews website.
Okay. So why does this model make particular sense for your publishing operation? I mean, why aren't APCs or other open access models appropriate for annual reviews? Um, and in that sense, how is an OA strategy for annual reviews different than that of any of the other primary research publications?
Well, the article processing charge doesn't work for us because all of our content is invited. It can easily take 3 or 4 months for an author to pull together the materials to produce a comprehensive review, and it's just not appropriate for us to then present them with a bill to publish it. Um, and the cost structure for a review journal that publishes 25 to 35 articles a year is very different to a primary journal that handles, I don't know, thousands of articles that are submitted and processed electronically. They're reviewed at no cost to the publisher. So we definitely need a good alternative to the APC. I think that the publishing community needs alternatives to run alongside the APC,
Mm.
and Subscribe to Open, maybe one of these. It's the candidate that we would like to put forward.
Okay, and then why are libraries a good partner in this project? Why not more broadly the university itself or government agencies or other funding bodies?
Libraries and librarians are our partners of choice because we have, successful, trusted partnerships that have been built up over, many decades actually. We get very useful feedback from librarians in part because they're so close to our end users. That's invaluable. And the librarians are experts in collection development and curation. And this is a real talent that would need to be relearned by central agencies or funding bodies. So I think that there's a good number of reasons for us to want to continue to work directly with librarians rather than with the funding agencies. Although, if needs must, we'll certainly do that.
Sure, sure. So I imagine then there's like some responsibility, I suppose, that lies with the libraries to um, either market or do some outreach to make sure their broader communities know that this content now is available to them and not just to the subscribing institution itself. Is
Sure.
that how do you see that kind of panning out?
Well, as we found with public health, once the thing is open access, the users find you, and even
Right, right.
within institutions that subscribe, we see an increase in the number of downloads when we move the title to open access, and that's, I think, because it's much easier to access the content. It's a simple one click away. You don't have to register with the library system and then go through all the steps that you need to get to the annual reviews site, and then to eventually, it might be 5 or 6 clicks, whereas if you
Mm-hmm.
access it through open access, it can sometimes be one click. So there's it automatically becomes a much more high profile piece of content once it becomes open access. We would definitely welcome universities working with us to make the availability of the open access journals more widely known, but it happens anyway.
Okay. So I imagine you're kind of, or you have been keeping track of what's going on with Plan S. And is there any concern, or are you kind of following closely how that's evolving and whether Subscribe to Open fits within that framework or not? Or what are you seeing there?
Well, the authors of Plan S didn't give much consideration to reviews. In fact, the open access movement has focused more or less exclusively on primary research articles.
Mm-hmm.
Nonetheless, we engaged with the leaders of Plan S once the program was announced. We'd already set course for Subscribe to Open, and we wanted to ensure that they would be supportive of the Subscribe to Open, that it fell within their criteria for moving to open access. So we've
Mm-hmm.
spoken to them on 3 separate occasions. We submitted comments in the recent round of requests for comments, and their response has been universally positive and supportive. That Subscribe to Open is in full agreement with the goals of the Plan S
Mm,
movement.
okay. Any, what would you tell small or society publishers trying to navigate Plan S compliance? Any advice or words of warning or?
Yeah, well, every publisher has a unique set of factors to juggle, but I think that any publisher that performs an important function should be supported in mapping out a route to comply with open access and to comply with Plan S. It looks
Mm,
like this is going to have to involve the provision of additional funding sources, at least on a short-term basis, which is again something that we've put in our comments to Plan S. The feedback is that there's no doubt that there's a need for such provision. I would say that if Subscribe to Open succeeds, it might provide a blueprint for similar approaches by other small publishers, and we would certainly be happy to share, our experiences with anyone that's interested. We can't all move to APCs. It doesn't suit everyone. We need a diversity of approaches. I'm interested in seeing what other open access plans emerge, but we certainly are happy to share uh, our ideas and our findings with everyone in the community.
okay. I just want to quickly revisit your subscribe to open model real quick. Has there been any concern that once a journal is open that it would dissuade or otherwise convince a library they don't and do not need to subscribe to that journal any longer?
So I think lots of experts agree that there's enough money already within the publishing system to make everything available open access if only we could find the mechanism.
Mm,
And the barrier is that, well, if it becomes free, then people will gradually pull out because the tragedy of the commons predicts that people will free ride and use their funding elsewhere. So we wanted a system that kind of locked people into supporting Subscribe to Open. And essentially what we need is we need our existing subscribers to continue to subscribe to Open, because
mm-hmm.
if they don't do that, then we won't generate sufficient revenues to publish the journal. If that happens, we'll need to institute the gate again, and we'll be back to asking the subscribers to subscribe on for gated content. So the option is not that it's free, it's freely available, so they can withdraw. If it's freely available only so long as they subscribe. If they withdraw, we're back to square one and we're asking them to subscribe to told access content all over again. So we hope that that and the incentive to join by giving a discount will keep institutions involved. And I should say that when we open up journals and we see substantial usage from institutions that are not currently contributors to Subscribe to Open, we will be requesting and suggesting to them that it would be right for them to participate in the program as well. So in fact, what we may see is an increase in the number of
Mm.
subscribers to annual reviews journals, which potentially could result in a reduction in the cost to everyone.
You just heard from Richard Gallagher, the president and editor-in-chief of Annual Reviews. This concludes the final episode of our four-part series on annual reviews and its shift to an open access publishing model. This episode was brought to you by Annual Reviews. Don't forget to fill out our new listener survey, which will help us understand what you like about the Authority File, what you don't, and what you think we can do to improve it. Access the survey at www.research.net/r/authorityfile. That's www.research.net/r/authorityfile. You can find all of the episodes of the Authority File on your favorite podcast app or on our website, choice360.org. Just click on the librarianship dropdown. On choice360.org, you'll also find information on Choice's entire product platform, including Choice Reviews, CC Advisor, Choice webinars, resources for college libraries, our white papers, and a whole lot more. A great way to keep up with the Authority File is to join the Choice Authority File Facebook group, which you can access via the Choice Reviews Facebook page. As a member of the group, you can give us feedback, suggest podcast participants, chat with other listeners, and submit new topic ideas. Sponsorship and advertising for the Authority File podcast are handled by Choice's advertising manager, Pam Marino, and the production and editing are done by Choice's digital media specialist, Mark Dirks. That's all for this week. Thanks for joining us.